All right. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to call this planning meeting to order, and I confirm we do have quorum. The mayor is absent, and Councillor Schumacher is online, I believe. She is online. Excellent. If we can bring her in, we'll have her do the land acknowledgement.
I am here. Can you hear me?
I can. You can go ahead with the land acknowledgement.
Perfect. Thank you. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaty of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunity, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thank you very much. Is there any disclosures of pecuniary interest? I see none. All right. I'd like to welcome everyone to the public portion of today's meeting to consider applications to amend the Community Planning Permit Bylaw 2022-97, pursuant to Section 34 of the Planning Act. The public meeting will proceed as follows. Staff will provide a brief explanation of the purpose and effect of the application, along with any correspondence received. The applicant or the representative may offer additional comments without repeating the information already outlined by staff. Members of the public attending in person or electronically will be invited to ask questions or provide comments. Council will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant, staff, or any presenters. After the public meeting is concluded and all input received, Council will consider the proposed amendments. Any person making representation is asked to state their name and mailing address, and please note that presentations are limited to 10 minutes. If Council approves any bylaw amendment applications this afternoon, a notice of the decision will be issued, commencing a 20-day appeal period. During the period, and in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act, the applicant, the municipality, and eligible persons and public bodies may file an appeal. No building permits may be issued or any related work proceed during the appeal period. And there's more. Anyone wishing to receive notice of a bylaw's passage, any appeals, or possible Ontario Land Tribunal proceedings must submit a written request prior to the bylaw's passage. Requests may be filed with the recording secretary or the clerk. Each notice of complete application and public meeting included an explanation of the purpose and effect of the proposed amendment, and notice was required to be posted at the subject lands. Notice was therefore considered to have been provided in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act and applicable sections of the Huntsville Official Plan. And with that, I'm going to ask Madeline to speak to the first application, Jardine Investments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, and through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 2483 Old Muskoka Road. The lot is designated community residential within the Utterson Community Settlement Area in the official plan and is under the Community Residential Precinct in the Community Planning Permit Bylaw. The community settlement area functions as a residential settlement, as well as a commercial and business center for the surrounding waterfront and rural areas. The character of these areas will be protected by ensuring that development takes place in the form of infill development, intensification, redevelopment, and minor rounding out in order to facilitate the growth of the community in a compact manner. Further, the community residential precinct permits single detached dwellings and artisan studios as of right and includes discretionary uses such as markets, financial establishments, retail stores, and service establishments, among other light convenience commercial uses. An application has been submitted to convert the existing building on the property into a multiple residential dwelling containing 10 dwelling units. To facilitate this, a community planning permit bylaw amendment is proposed to change the precinct on the lot from a community residential precinct to a community residential with exception precinct to permit the following: to permit a multiple residential dwelling as an additional primary use, to permit a maximum of 10 dwelling units on the property, to recognize the location of an existing driveway and parking area being 0 meters from the south interior lot line, to reduce the required setback to a refuse collection area from 10 meters to 3.4 meters, to reduce the required landscape buffer along the aisle and parking area abutting the south interior lot line from 3 meters to 0 meters, and to require that a privacy fence be installed along the south interior lot line directly abutting the parking area and driveway aisle. The proposed multiple dwelling will contain 10 units overall, consisting of 2 studio units, 2 one-bedroom units, 5 two-bedroom units, and 1 three-bedroom unit. The ground floor contains 6 dwelling units, and the second floor contains 4. Included in the 6 ground floor units will be a 1-bedroom accessible unit and a 2-bedroom accessible unit. And just to further clarify, the report notes that 2 of the units are to be affordable. However, the applicant has confirmed that that's not the case, but all 10 units will be market rental. The community residential precinct does not provide a density calculation, and therefore in this instance, all technical documents were prepared on the basis of 10 units, so the site-specific exception is to cap the number of units at 10. The proposal also aims to utilize and enhance the existing parking and driveway area that exists on the property, as the applicant is proposing additional landscaping along the front yard to establish the required landscape buffer between the front property line and the parking area. And further, the site layout is unable to achieve the appropriate aisle width along the south interior lot line between the dwelling and interior side yard when calculating a minimum aisle width and minimum landscaping width. However, the applicant is proposing a privacy fence along that portion of the property to ensure that privacy is retained between the adjacent property owner. Also, to not further expand the existing parking area, the refuse collection area has been proposed 3.4 meters from the property line. When abutting a residential precinct, this is actually required to be 10 meters, but to ensure that parking and hardened surfaces are contained, the applicant has suggested that this is the most appropriate location, and it will be enclosed to mitigate visual impact. Okay, so moving on. The property, as some may know, was previously used as a private school institution, which contributed to a number of traffic, congestion, noise, and privacy concerns from the community. In evaluating the current proposal, it appears that the property as a multiple dwelling would be an appropriate reuse of the existing building and provide a compact and appropriate residential density within the settlement area of Utterson. The official plan includes policies that review the conversion of single detached dwellings in settlement areas into multiple dwellings. It notes that these types of proposals may be considered in limited circumstances through a bylaw amendment, provided that a hydrogeological assessment demonstrating that the location and lot size would be appropriate, that adequate potable water and sewage disposal systems can be provided on site, that parking can be accommodated, that the dwelling is, sorry, I've just lost my place. The dwelling is structurally sound and of sufficient size to allow for the creation of more than one appropriately sized dwelling unit, that the use remains compatible with the character of the surrounding area, and adequate landscape buffering and on-site amenities are provided. And given the existing site conditions and technical studies prepared, the applicant has addressed these requirements. Further, the official plan provides policies for infrastructure and compatibility requirements supporting new and existing development. As development in community settlement areas is required to be on private services, being on-site water and individual on-site septic services, applicants are required to ensure that an adequate supply of water will be available, that there will be no cross-contamination or negative impact on the groundwater supply, and that lot sizes are appropriate. So in this instance, a hydrological assessment was completed, and the findings are detailed within the report package, but overall, the assessment concludes that the property can support the groundwater and septic waste disposal needs to service the proposed residential development. And the report also notes that the well on site draws from a bedrock aquifer, which is a different water table than the neighboring dug wells. So to address stormwater management, a letter was prepared and notes that existing hard surfaces are to remain and collection areas will occur in catch basins and French drains. The Town Operations Department has reviewed this letter and provided comments which can be addressed in future stages. Additionally, a traffic letter evaluated the proposal and projected traffic conditions and estimates that the proposed development is expected to generate a total of 4 morning and 5 evening peak hour trips per day. Further, the letter notes that the traffic generated from the proposal will not adversely affect the traffic capacity for both Old Muskoka Road and Highway 141, and concluded that no upgrades to the road are required. And further, development proposed in proximity to a railway must demonstrate that applicable safety requirements can be satisfied and that proposals can meet the requirements of compatibility, noise and vibration policies, and implementation of mitigation and buffering measures. So in this instance, the applicant completed a noise study and safety and mitigation measures can be addressed in future stages. Overall, the application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. District staff noted they would not be opposed to the approval of the application. 4 letters of objection were received and included in the agenda package, and 2 additional letters were received after the agenda was posted and circulated to council. Letters note concerns regarding inconsistency with community character, servicing capacities regarding groundwater and private well risk, increases to traffic and noise, reduced privacy, and lack of public transportation. Additionally, 4 letters of support were also received and included in the agenda package, and 1 additional letter was received after the agenda was posted. These letters note appreciation for the additional housing within the settlement area and are satisfied with the change in use from an institutional to residential use on the property. Through staff's review and analysis, the application appears to meet the intent of the official plan and be consistent with the provincial planning statement, and as such, staff are recommending approval. Thanks for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Chair Stone, Committee, Lanny Dennis Planning, Box 254, Novar, Ontario, P0A1R0. Represent the owners who are here today as well. Obviously had a chance to listen to the presentation and review the comprehensive, thorough report prepared by staff. I think it's a fair and accurate assessment of the proposal and concur with staff to approve the application. I also appreciate the efforts of staff bringing the application forward. The merits of the proposal, in summary, the building repurposing an existing, what was a school building that may otherwise sit dormant, so that should add to the tax base. The building is approximately 480 square meters in size, and I think that's far too large for your typical single-family dwelling, which is permitted as of right in the community residential zone. Just my opinion, but I think it's a much better use of the structure, creating 10 new much-needed smart value rental housing units, helping meet the extreme demand. The unit consists, I think, of a fairly good mix. There's 2 studio, 2 one-bedroom, 5 two-bedrooms, and 1 three-bedroom. There's 6 units on the ground floor, as indicated by the planner, and 4 on the second floor. Of the 6 units on the first floor, 2 will be accessible units. There's no new structure proposed on the site other than a modest increase to the exterior via a staircase and a deck to assist with proper egress out of the building, therefore minimizing the disturbance to the lot, and the impact of the structure has already been established. Also, to minimize the site impacts of the proposal is to use the existing parking and access, and they're going to try to improve the site appearance and improve the compatibility by providing additional buffering along the street line, and of course including the privacy fence. It's a large lot consisting of about 50 meters of frontage and 0.71 hectares. Is very underutilized in a settlement area, and it is an ideal infilling project to increase the density where it is supported and promoted by the official plan policy, as noted by the planner, particularly in Utterson, where residential is the primary intended use. As part of the pre-consultation process, there were 5 studies required in addition to the site plan that was prepared by a qualified professional. There was a hydro-G, a traffic study, a stormwater, planning justification report, noise study, and renderings, all in support of the application, which I believe addresses many concerns of the letters that were received. There will be a new tertiary septic system installed on the site, and they're going to be utilizing the existing well, which the engineers in the hydro-G indicated that it could support the development. The lot is not overbuilt and can quite comfortably accommodate the intended use. The lot coverage is about 6.5%, and 20% is permitted in the community residential zone. The District of Muskoka staff were not opposed to the application. There were letters of support, and hopefully respectfully request Planning Committee recommend approval to Council. Thanks.
Thanks very much. I will ask any members of the public that would like to speak to this application. Come on down. Good afternoon, and if you can state your name and mailing address before you begin, that'd be wonderful. Can you, and
Karen
beautiful.
Morrison, 2473 Old Muskoka Road. So I'm directly on the north side of this proposal, proposed change to zoning. So I have a few remarks. This property has been a school for over 100 years. In the past, it was the Utterson School before the Muskoka Christian School took it over. Up until a few years ago, I think 2022 was when major zoning changes again occurred. It was changed from institutional to community residential. So at that time, it was still a school, and that zoning precedes this proposal to go to 10 units from being a Monday to Friday, 8 till 4 busy area of our community. The sound and traffic was never a problem for me as a school. Kids playing in the yard, laughing, yelling, and having fun is one of the most wonderful sounds you can actually hear on a daily basis. So let me start by stating I'm not against rental units going into the former Muskoka Christian School. What I am against is the proposed 10 units with close to over 15 bedrooms in the site. So it's not just 10 units, it's 15 plus bedrooms, close to 30 people moving in there. And I don't feel that our community can handle that sudden influx of development, of intensification. Utterson is identified as the official plan as a community settlement area characterized by its natural setting, large residential properties, and small scale uses. Development is meant to occur through infill, rounding out, and intensification with respects to the character of the community. A development of this size does not reflect the scale of development that currently exists in our hamlet. And I will say hamlet. It is less smaller than a village. There is nothing, nowhere to buy eggs and milk within walking distance. There are no sidewalks. The maintenance of roadways, it becomes dangerous to walk probably close to 6 months a year. The closest place to go buy milk and eggs is probably the Fresh Mart in Port Sydney, and it's easily 8 kilometers away from this. So I know the theory is that there will be at max 15 cars, but I am very skeptical about that. This kind of intensification is good for in town where there's public transit, where there's sidewalks, where there's you can walk to go buy a bag of milk. Not in Utterson, where a car is required to get anywhere within the community, unless you're willing to walk about 25 minutes to catch the the bus that goes from town to town. I can't think of what it's called right now. The only convenient services located nearby are the horse tack shop and a post office down the hill. So there is no store there anymore. There hasn't been a store there, I believe, for at least 10 years. And that is not really, that's what it's been. And I don't think a store is going to be coming to that area anytime soon. The biggest challenge is the groundwater. I received a letter about the hydrological survey around the 23rd of September. I don't have the envelope with the stamp date, but it was the week after it was sent. The letter is dated September 17th, and the post office went on strike on September 25th. So one of the highlights in the geohydrological survey or hydrogeological survey was that only 3 residents submitted a request to have the water tested. I would challenge that, one, there is not enough time given for local residents to request this, not enough understanding or awareness of what was going to happen, that the size of the proposal was as large as it was. I would also reinforce that only dug wells were tested. So mine, another neighbor, and another neighbor. So 3 of 40. No drilled wells were tested for water impact, for the water impact study. So again, I've talked to neighbors who had never received a letter. I've talked to neighbors who weren't sure. It took a bit to decide, and by then it was too late, apparently. So 3 of 40 people apparently were sent the letter, 40 people were sent the letter, 3 responded. I don't think that supplies an adequate participation to accurately do the water level testing for that much intensification on our property. Water security is essential for those who rely on private wells. Before approving a development of this scale, it is critical that the potential impacts to neighboring wells are fully understood. For these reasons, I respectfully ask council to reconsider whether 10 units and 15 plus bedrooms are an appropriate level of an intensification for this site. A smaller number of units may be more compatible with scale and servicing to our community. Without any zoning changes or amendments, whatever, it could easily be 3 to 4 large apartments for families, and it doesn't need to be another 30 people next door. So those are that's how I stand on this.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Is there anyone else present that would like to speak to it? Come on. If we do, we'll do that at a different time. Come on down, sir. Welcome. You'll need to put the microphone on. Nope. Push the button. Beautiful.
Okay. My name's Dan Stewart. I live at 2493 Old Muskoka Road, the property adjacent south. My wife and I live there currently. I have a speech, I had to change it a bit because we kept getting results from the town staff report and the hydro G tests. So I kind of changed it around a bit, took stuff out. So my name is Dan Stewart. My wife and Sherry and I live immediately south of the subject property at 2493 Old Muskoka Road. We are deeply concerned about this proposal because it represents a significant increase in residential intensity in a privately serviced rural area. Going from a single family dwelling, the school as it was, to 10 units substantially increases water demand. Our home relies on a private dug well for our needs. If our well yield declines, the cost and impact falls on us not the developer, not the town. While we did take part in the GHD test and my conversation with the engineer from GHD after the water test was completed, he stated we should be okay. In that test, in the hydrogeological test that we received just yesterday, it did mention my well at 2493. It dropped 10 centimeters. So when I was talking to the engineer about the test and how this kind of works, I said, can we just use our water normally, or, be careful for our water usage? He said, just do what you normally do. We basically just flushed toilets and washed hands. We didn't wash clothes, wash cars. I wanted to get an accurate result from the test myself, regardless of what the school was doing. So that was done. And that's the result that we got. Yes, our water went down 10 centimeters during that day. I think it ran into the next day. I'm not really sure how it all went. So as a long-term resident, 41 years, and being fully aware that the former Christian school was in operation, the water usage from the students and staff would have consisted of washing hands and flushing toilets from, say, 9 till 4, Monday to Friday. So in reality, there was no water usage during evenings, weekends, Christmas and March break, and of course, this long summer school break. Now that with the proposed 10-unit apartment complex, the actual water usage will now consist of washing hands, flushing toilets, washing dishes, washing clothes, and bathing on a regular basis, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. To me, this is considerably much more water usage from a drilled well in a very compact area, regardless how deep their well is. I feel that water always runs downhill. I know that I'm on a dug well in a different water table, but during long peak hot summers, we are very careful what we use. And we've never run dry for 41 years. So that must attest something to my water that I get in my dug well, at least the water flow. So that's my main concern, is the water availability and how I'm affected. I was, as I mentioned, and it's in the study, we did drop 10 centimeters. Another thing is the proposal to remove the required 3-meter landscape buffer along our shared lot line. That buffer exists to protect privacy, reduce noise, and mitigate light from parking areas. Eliminating it would concentrate activity directly against our property. So in other words, our privacy is going to be affected quite a bit. When the school was there, and I have to agree with Karen, her comments were basically how I felt. The school was there from 9 till 3. The teachers would leave around 4. For the rest of the time, it was like having no neighbor there. That's a benefit. We appreciated it. We helped the school do certain things when they had no hydro one time. It doesn't relate to what the school or what the new proposal is, but this is how we have dealt with living in the area. I see that there's a new proposal about putting a privacy fence up. I'm quite a bit higher. I don't know how tall this privacy fence is going to be, but I can see everything from my kitchen window and back deck. There are trees that go along the line, and that does provide some privacy, cuts the noise down, and I don't want those cut down. I just really don't understand why we have to make the compromise for these buffers. It's to me, it's really encroaching on my right as a property owner. So to kind of end this is not about opposing housing. It's about opposing high density in rural development that can negatively affect neighboring wells and properties. In our opinion, keeping the zoning as a single family dwelling, as we know now, the families living in the school now, if they want to add 1 or 2 in-law apartments, I'd be just fine with it. It would have a lot less demand on the water and the property buffers. So that's it.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Would anyone else present like to make any comments? I'm not seeing any hands. If there's anyone online watching that would like to make a comment, you'll need to raise your electronic hand.
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go to council members. But before I do, I'm going to ask staff, is the water's the huge issue here. And we've hired an expert and they ensure that the water available to these potential 10 units will be just fine and the neighbors' wells will not be affected. Is that true?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone, that is what the report concluded. That's what the engineer had prepared in that report.
Thank you very much. Council members, comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Stone. Very quickly, I'm just curious, through the Hydro G test, did it say how many gallons a minute that the well actually recovers?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone, it did. I don't have the numbers in front of me or on the top of my mind. I can ask colleagues to pull that up if that's something that you'd like to see.
Yeah, I would. I'd like to see what the numbers are, actually.
Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I just wondering, I might have missed it, but is the applicant's property a dug well or is it a drilled well?
Thank you, through you, Chair Stone. So the hydrogeological assessments identified that the well on the subject property is a drilled well and the neighboring wells are dug wells.
Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Stone. I'm just curious, does anybody know the answer how many kids attended that school? I'm not sure the size of it. Was it 60, 100, 160?
Madeline.
Thank you, through you, Chair Stone. I believe in doing previous applications for that specific property that the capacity of the school, I believe, was approximately 150 occupants. But I don't know if anyone else has additional information on that.
Another question. I sympathize with the neighboring property having the lot line moved to 0. How high is this expected fence? And, well, I'll start with that. How high is that fence?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone, we have privacy fence policies in the community planning permit bylaw. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, the height of a privacy fence is 1.8 meters. 1.8 meters or 1.2 meters, sorry. 1.8 meters.
And for us old people, how many feet is that?
6 feet, approximately?
6 feet?
That we as the neighbor are elevated. So this privacy fence isn't going to affect us.
Thank you very much. We've already gone to the public. We can't keep going back and forth, okay? All right. Madeline, do you want to address that?
Sure. Sorry, through you, Chair Stone. I might just add, so the reduction, thank you. The reduction in the landscaping buffer, currently there is no landscaping buffer there. The existing site conditions is just a driveway aisle along that portion of the property. There is vegetation on the neighboring property and there is a chain link fence there currently. From what I'm hearing, it doesn't appear that a privacy fence may be a solution. So I'm just putting that out there. But the intention essentially would be that that chain link fence is removed and a wooden privacy fence is installed in place of that, in lieu of the vegetation that can't be provided in that area. So that's just something to consider. I just wanted to flag existing site condition. And we can I can bring up a site photo if that would also help.
Sure.
Oh, thanks, Chair Stone. Just quickly, just along the same subject, is there a need to remove vegetation along that fence line right now? Or is that going to stay status quo?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone, there currently isn't any vegetation on the subject property to remove in that location.
Council Schumacher, you have a question.
I have a couple. So yeah, I, again, around the well water, I understand from a couple of neighbors that their wells did go dry about a week after this was done. Is there anything that, to the town's knowledge, to our knowledge, that a waiver is put in place that if neighboring wells go dry, it is the responsibility of the developer to, because I mean, I've called well drilling companies just to get an idea, looking at doing one myself for a drilled well, and you're looking at $30,000. So who is out of pocket for that $30,000 if the neighbor's well goes dry?
I'm going to go to Director Maxwell for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stone. We do not have anything in place that would require the developer in that instance to do any remediation. What would have to happen is an evaluation of why the well went dry, because there's probably a multitude of things that could cause a well to go dry, and it's not always just because there's another well in a neighboring location. But that is something that we could review through the final plans. If council were to approve this application, we could ensure that there was more detailed work done on the hydro G if needed.
I would say that sounds like a good idea.
I
Dion?
would definitely want that in there. I mean, not that it's going to mean much to some in the audience, it will, but like if you look at Billy Bull's old property there, the pond that used to be there has definitely decreased in size. So I know that there's water, there's like tons of, creeks in behind Wag's property and everything like that, but we are going through a time as climate change has happened and a lot of our water supply is depleting. So I just want to make sure that my neighbors are protected.
Thank you for those comments. Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thanks, Chair Stone. Madeline, you're suggesting that there's no natural barrier on the applicant property, but on Mr. Stewart's property there is, and he suggested that he would like that to remain. Well, it's on his property, so it's going to remain. I guess this is to you, Mr. Stewart. Do you feel that a privacy fence would be a benefit if it was on your property line?
I'm not really sure about it. Right now, there are trees, and there are deciduous trees and several evergreens. That does block out the view from the pool. It does give us privacy. To have another 7-foot-ish wood fence, to call it the Great Wall of Utterson, I don't know. I just feel that, there's going to be cars passing that 24/7. So maybe that might.
Is there room for a vegetative buffer there, Madeline?
Madeline?
Through you, Chair Stone, so to have an appropriate driveway aisle width and a vegetated buffer, there's not enough space there. Currently, the existing aisle width, I believe, is only 6.2 meters, which is deficient by 0.5 meters.
Councillor Schumacher, you have another question.
Yes. Again, my concern is also around the parking. So, I mean, I see a need for the development units. I definitely do. When houses in that area now have spiked to 1.2 million, people can't afford it. So I get that there is a need for market rent housing. I have a concern with 15 spaces and 10 units. So I guess I'm kind of on we're hearing Karen's point. If there's going to be 15 spaces, then we have, 6 or 7 units where it's 2 spaces. when we did and I know we don't set precedent at planning, but when we talked about the 5-story, all I have heard is how people have complained, not about the 5-story, because that's Scarborough of Huntsville anyway, where that's going is what people have said, but the lack of parking per unit is the concern I've heard from the public when we approved that one. For this area, I would agree, you do need to have a vehicle. You cannot, so if you've got a couple in a 1-bedroom, they're gonna have 2 cars. So where is the overflow parking going to go, or visitor parking? Because I'm hoping it's not down at the post office in behind.
So
And I
I
guess,
think that was a
I
statement.
don't know, are they assigning 1 unit for one parking spot for the 1-bedroom unit, and it's assigned and that's all you get? Or is it a free 15 spots and whoever gets there first?
I'll ask Madeline to respond.
Thank you. Through you, Chair Stone. That's a great comment and great question. So our parking calculations for multi-residential dwellings is 1.5 spaces per dwelling unit. I don't know if it's the intention of the applicant to have numbered parking spaces on site associated with each unit. We can confirm that. However, on the site plan drawing, it does show 1 parking space per unit with 5 additional visitor spaces. But I'm happy to have the applicant confirm if that would be okay.
Can I ask the applicant's representative, will the spaces be identified to the dwellings? Okay. Okay, thank you. Those online that didn't hear that, we're going to have to hear back on that answer. Councillor Fitzgerald?
Thanks, Chair Stone. Madeline, you said that they were removing the affordable component of the housing. So would this not qualify for the 1.5 space per unit?
Go ahead.
Any longer?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Stone. So the 1.5 spaces per unit is just the standard parking rate. It's not for the changes that were implemented through the Housing Action Plan. That would allow reduced rates if the proposal was affordable housing.
All right, I'm going to go to Deputy Mayor Armour first, and I believe we have an answer to your question with the flow rate as well.
Oh, perfect. My question is to follow up actually to Councillor Schumacher's comment about wells going dry during the study. Can anybody confirm that actually happened?
And we have drilled well. We've also been there 42 years. Never gone dry.
All right, for those online listening, there was one person whose well did go dry. Madeline, do you have that flow rate of the Hydro G?
I do. Thank you. Through you, Chair Stone. Would you like me to read the section? It's a small
Sure.
paragraph. Okay. Okay, so under 5.1 of the report, it notes that given development details provided, the test well would ideally supply a yield equivalent to a total flow of 7,150 liters per day. This figure equates to a continuous flow of about 5 liters per minute over a 24-hour period. The client also provided a design flow of 9,250 liters per day, which equates to a continuous flow of about 6.7 liters per minute over a 24-hour period. Based upon the pumping test, the test well provided a yield of 28 liters per minute, indicating that the aquifer tapped below the site can produce significant groundwater to supply the proposed development with minimal risk of impact to neighboring wells.
Thanks for that. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Deputy Mayor Armour asked the question I was going to ask, but so I have a comment about parking and then a follow-up to that question. I guess my comment regarding parking is that this property is about 6 hectares. There should be lots of room for parking if extra parking spots need to be provided. The developer may have to provide more parking. It shouldn't be an issue to provide more parking, in my opinion. Secondly, I guess I have my follow-up question would be for the person in the audience whose well went dry. I need to know, I'd like to confirm if that happened during the Hydro-G study or not.
If I can ask them to come down. Thanks for coming down.
I actually can't really give you the exact date. Yeah, I can't. I actually, I may have it in my date book at home, so I document things.
Okay.
But yes, it definitely did. And it was quite alarming, as we've never had a problem, like ever. And we've been there 42 years. So it is quite shocking, actually. We're upset, my husband and I, about it as well. But I would like to get back to you on that. If I can follow up on my date, if I have it in my date book, I'll let you know.
A follow-up?
Would have it been in September, though, when the Hydro-G test was being done?
Perhaps. I'm not gonna I will check. Okay? But it did, nevertheless, since all this has been going on. And also, we've had the transformer right across the road outside the front of my neighboring. It's 3 times it has blown. And I don't know if that's related, but that was also very unusual that the transformer blew 3 times.
Okay. I think Deputy Mayor Armour has a question.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Stone. Just very quickly, how long or did your well actually recover?
I'll
How
have to
long
check
after?
my husband. How long? How long was our well out dry for?
Came back late the next day.
Okay. Okay.
The water should be 12 feet down. Where it starts, the level. When it recovered, it barely covered the pump, which is 100 feet down.
Okay.
That's how much I lost.
Madeline, you have a comment?
Thank you, through you, Chair Stone. I just wanted to note that, just because I have it in front of me here, that the Hydro-G testing and test wells were observed on September 29th and 30th. So just to give a date range.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
No, we can't keep going back and forth from the gallery to council. No, I'm sorry.
Just help Alex and Ross along. Ross approached us about a week after. Water. I said, yeah. And I asked him, did you not take part in the, he said, he's out of water. I said, did you take part in the GHD stuff? He said, he didn't take part. So just to kind of reiterate.
Okay.
What had happened.
Thank you. I'm going to remind council members that your comments have to come to me. Don't go to the gallery. Everything goes through me. Did you have a comment, Director Maxwell?
Thank you, Chair Stone. It sounds like there's a lot of questions about the content of the Hydro-G and how the studies were conducted. And I'm wondering if it would be of benefit for council to have staff go away and talk to the applicant and their consultants about that information and see if they can provide more information at a subsequent meeting, or if there's any potential that the consultant could come in to answer these questions. I'm not sure if that's something that's feasible with the applicant and their agent, but it might be helpful for council.
Well, I don't know if it's obvious to anyone else, but the question in my mind is, they drilled a well and there's lots of water down there, but the dug wells, which are much higher, closer to the surface, they may be at threat. And that's a serious concern of everyone here, I believe. Just a statement. Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, and through you, Chair Stone. Very concerned about the water for sure. I can't imagine being a neighbor and a 10-plex goes in, and I've had water for 40 years now, I don't. But not knowing enough about the hydrogeological study process, I could use more information. I find it hard. 28 gallons a minute is huge. Like my real estate days, like 6 gallons a minute was plenty. Like for even a duplex or fourplex, it'd be more than you would ever need. 28 is a lot. So I need to know what got done during the testing that could possibly cause a drilled well to run out of water when the dug wells near them didn't. Usually the dug wells are, unless the one that went dry was a dug well. So it's just for me, there's not enough information for me to really truly understand if this can have an impact. I know that the tests were done in September, which is the drier month. Obviously, the bigger flow is in the spring when the water's running. If you're going to have a well go dry, it is in the fall. But if it's never happened and it happened now, I find it hard to believe a 28 gallon per minute well being tested could have an impact on dug wells or drilled wells nearby. So I guess that's my big question, because I am concerned about affecting the neighbors' water.
We're going to go to Councillor Fitzgerald first.
Thank you, Chair Stone, and through you, I don't know if you can answer this or not, Madeline, but the well was existing when the school was in place. There was a new well drilled, or was there? Just to clarify.
Madeline?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Stone, there was no new well drilled, and the proposal is to use the existing well on the site.
And do we know, follow up?
Yes, please.
The longevity of that well, is it 10 years old? Is it 15 years old? Is it?
Madeline?
Through you, Chair Stone, I don't have the answer to that question.
Okay. So we do need some more answers, I think.
Councillor Clark?
Thanks, Chair. I guess the other concern is that I think I heard somebody in the audience say there's about 40 wells in this general area, but only three owners participated in the Hydro-G study that was done. So that's a little bit concerning, because I think there should have been more participation, and I think some of the homeowners need to be proactive to be involved in that as well. But I don't really feel confident in a Hydro-G study that only has 3 participants out of possible 40.
Madeline?
Thank you. Through you, Chair Stone, I just want to clarify to Mr. Clark, the 40 wells were in a 250-meter radius of the subject property. So that's how they collected that number. And then it's voluntary on who chooses to participate in the survey versus who doesn't.
Mr. Dennis, do you have any comments or questions regarding this that you would like to add? Down here.
So I listened to the public comments and planning committee's comments, and there seems to be a bit of skepticism around the Hydro-G study, predominantly, and the ability of this site to accommodate the intended proposed water supply without impact on abutting wells. I mean, one side of me is saying, you have a hydrogeologist who is a professional engineer who signs his name and says that there's adequate supply of water from a quantity and quality perspective to service the site. So in some respects, you have to put a lot of faith in what the hydrogeologist says. Having said that, if it gives, and I'm not sure about the owner's thoughts about moving forward without more work, or whether or not we could defer it and have the hydrogeologist come to planning committee and or provide a subsequent report if it gives committee a higher level of confidence moving the application forward.
Thank you for that. I'd feel more comfortable moving forward if we actually heard from the professional. So I don't know if anyone wishes to put a motion forward. Deputy Mayor Armour?
Thanks, Chair Stone. I'd feel the same way. I think that would probably alleviate some of the anxiety of the neighbors too, if they got heard actually from the engineer himself. So I'd like to put a motion forward that we defer.
All right. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Renwick. Madeline or Richard, do we need to defer till next month, or is there a question mark about whether?
I would just ask for some clarification. So is the ask for a deferral so that this can be further considered with the hydrogeologist at the next council meeting? Or is it a request for a peer review of the hydrogeological study? So maybe I would just put that question out towards council.
Then I'll ask the mover and seconder.
I think a peer review would be beneficial in this situation for sure. And if we could actually have them come to the meeting and actually explain this so that the residents who maybe didn't participate in the test, I guess, of the 40 wells, that maybe they'd have a better understanding on what actually takes place and how it works.
Might I add that it's not just, is there enough water on the site? It's what is the effect on the existing wells around it? So defer to next month, or no?
Sorry, Chair Stone. We could, the resolution could say defer until the results of a peer review are available, and they can have the discussion with the applicant about attending a meeting, because we don't know if we'd be able to get that back by the April meeting.
I'll go to Councilor Morrison first, then we're going to take a 5-minute break.
I like the direction this is going in, and I don't know what's better, a peer review or having the current person come explain their story. I think it's more of that we don't understand the hydrogeological assessment process more than anything else, more so than us questioning the person who did it. And if it's a peer review, it might be 3 months, 10 grand, who knows how long that might take. So I don't know if it's necessarily a peer review, and I would ask Richard, maybe having someone come and explain and answer questions that did the study, would that be just as effective, so that we have the answers? So I think a 28 gallon a minute well, if, for instance, a different use went in there that met everything, they could start using it tomorrow and drain as much water out of that as they want. We want to know more so the impact of the usage of that well on the neighbors. I don't know if we need a peer review.
We're going to take a 5-minute break, and we're going to make a decision. Council. Councillor Morrison's not here, but we're going to go ahead without him. Moved by Deputy Mayor Armour, seconded by Councillor Renwick. Be it resolved that the matter of application CPPA 04-2026 HTE be postponed until such time as the following outstanding Planning Council concerns are addressed. 1. Consulting engineer can attend the Planning Council to provide additional information regarding the hydrogeological study and the effect on neighboring properties. Are there any comments or questions on the motion? Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Stone, and through you. Since I've seconded the motion, but my question is, we're asking for the engineer to come back. How much would it cost to have a peer review done? So first question, how much does it cost, and how much time would it take to do that?
I'm going to go to Manager Clark.
Thank you. Great question. So through you, Mr. Chair, the costs do range, but I would say in the order of about 5,000. And in terms of timelines, also range, but it can be like 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks.
And I'll say that the comments while we were offline there regarding the peer review, it's not whether there's enough water to service the 10 units, it's more the effect on the neighboring properties. And the peer review would only talk about the study that talks about is there enough water and how much of a flow it is.
If
Go
I
ahead.
may, yeah, so the question, and bring an engineer, the engineer back in, would really determine the process that was used as opposed to whether or not there's enough water, correct? But ultimately, we want to know that there's going to be enough water, because that's the concern we have, correct? Yes.
So as far as the study goes for the application, is there enough water, Madeline?
Thank you for the question. Through you, Chair Stone, the study that was done confirms that there's adequate water supply for the proposed use.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions about the motion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Schumacher.
Thanks, just finding the mute button. Yeah, and if we are coming back and because we're deferring, can I get the answers to that parking question too?
Sorry, thank you, Chair
Director
Stone.
Maxwell?
We can ensure that the applicant has that additional information regarding parking available for the next meeting.
Councillor Morrison?
Yeah, just because I thought I had more time for a bathroom break than I actually did. Could I see the motion on the screen just so I know what I'm voting on?
It's simply a motion to defer so that we can have an expert come and explain to us the hydrogeological study and the effect on neighboring properties.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Madeline, you have something else?
Sorry, I just want to confirm to make it super clear. So the hydrogeological study that was done was completed by GHD Limited. We want the engineer who signed off on that report to attend Planning Council to give further information on how that study was done.
I would think ideally. Yes. All right. No more comments or questions? All in favor? And that carries. All right. Woo. All right, moving on. Madeline. We're moving on to the next public meeting, 55 Stevenson Road, 7 East. All right, Madeline, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 55 Stevenson Road, 7 East. The lot is designated community business within the Port Sydney Community Settlement Area in the official plan and is under the Community Rural and Business Employment Precinct in the Community Planning Permit Bylaw. Both the designation and the precinct allow for a number of commercial and employment uses to service the surrounding rural waterfront and community settlement areas. However, it should be noted that both in the official plan and community planning permit bylaw, there is specific focus related to limiting uses to allow low water usage and low effluent producing uses, and development applications are required to demonstrate this during all and any application types and stages. In this instance, an application has been submitted for the construction of a Nordic spa facility. To facilitate this, a community planning permit bylaw amendment is proposed to change the precinct on the lands from a community and rural business employment precinct to a community and rural business employment with exception precinct to permit the use. Since the community planning permit bylaw does not contain a specific definition for the proposed use, the applicants have requested, for the purposes of this amendment, that a Nordic spa be defined as an open space recreational area, buildings or buildings which are operated on a commercial basis and devoted to thermotherapy with the use of spas, steam rooms, hot and cold pools, and massage. A Nordic spa may also include the following accessory uses, being a dwelling unit for the owner or operator, staff quarters, place of assembly, restaurant, yoga and relaxation facilities, open space for trails and forest bathing, storage, administrative facilities, and other accessory uses, services, equipment, or facilities normally incidental to the principal use. When reviewing the feasibility of the proposal, conformity with the official plan is reviewed. Section B of the official plan requires that natural heritage features and areas and their ecological functions be protected from impacts relating to development. In this instance, an environmental impact study was provided, which assessed the natural heritage features of the property and with respecting the proposed development. The report evaluated existing conditions and determined that the property contains habitat of endangered and threatened species, significant wildlife habitat, and low to moderate risk for hazardous forest types for wildland fire. Recommendations were included within the report to address each of the findings and can be implemented in future stages. These primarily include vegetation removal within certain windows, protection fencing, lighting orientation, renaturalization of disturbed areas, and implementation of the Canada Fire Smart guidelines. Additionally, Section D of the official plan addresses land use compatibility. So respecting development of sensitive land uses in proximity to, which means 300 meters of a pit and 500 meters of a quarry, a technical report should be prepared to evaluate the presence and impact of any adverse impacts to risk to health and safety, determine the development is appropriate, and identify any remedial measures that should be taken to mitigate any concerns. So in this case, the property and area of development is within 500 meters of an active pit and quarry operation to the adjacent east. The applicants have chosen not to submit a noise and vibration study that was requested by staff, and therefore currently staff are unable to confirm that the proposed use is appropriate at this time in this regard. Respecting development within an area of influence of a waste disposal site, the official plan notes that where new development is proposed within 500 meters of an operating or identified non-operating waste disposal site, that a technical report be prepared and to determine if there's any impact, adverse effects, risks to health and safety, or any other environmental factors. And in this instance, the southern portion of the property is within the area of influence for an operating non-municipal waste disposal site. Hence a D4 was requested at the pre-consultation stage. However, the applicants have chosen to locate the area of development towards the central northern portion of the property outside of that 500-meter radius. And if development continues to remain in those areas, a D4 study would not be required by staff. Section E of the official plan addresses infrastructure supporting new and existing development. So where development is serviced by private individual on-site water and individual on-site sewer services, and to ensure that an adequate supply of water be available and that no cross-contamination or negative impacts on groundwater supply or neighboring properties is found, a hydrogeological assessment is required. In this instance, a hydrogeological assessment was submitted. However, the assessment did not satisfactorily address the requirements of this technical study. The assessment primarily reviewed dewatering construction related activity and did not evaluate the anticipated water usage of the proposed use, if the property would have sufficient water supply to accommodate the use, nor what impact servicing the proposed use and ongoing maintenance would have on neighboring properties and the surrounding environment. Investigations revealed that no perched or groundwater was observed on the site, and each of the 4 test wells that were observed were dry during all 3 monitoring events. Staff provided the applicants with a number of comments that are still outstanding, and additionally, a peer review of the report was recommended. Further respecting stormwater management and servicing, a functional servicing memo was provided, which outlines the proposed water servicing, sanitary servicing, and stormwater management strategy for the site. The memo referenced the findings of the hydrogeological assessment, and regarding water servicing, the memo notes that drilled wells will be required and pump tests must still be conducted to verify appropriate water supply to satisfy the peak water demands. Regarding stormwater management, an extended detention storage pond, enhanced grass swales, level spreaders, infiltration facilities, and erosion and sediment controls have been recommended. And at this time, given the findings of the hydrogeological assessment, demonstration of that proposed use can be that the proposed use can be serviced using the methods described in the functional servicing report is unavailable. Additionally, plans have been recently updated and appear inconsistent with what was reviewed when the functional servicing memo was prepared. So further investigation and revisions to that study would be required. And then further respecting traffic, a transportation impact study was provided, which concluded that no further upgrades or changes are required to Greer Road to accommodate the trips generated by the proposed use. So the study reviewed the number of trips and notes that approximately 73 trips during the morning and 102 trips during the evening will be generated. The study also notes that site access on Greer Road will provide appropriate levels of service with minimal delays and no improvement, nor turning lanes are required to accommodate the use. The report also outlines that the capacity of the use would include approximately 400 occupants per day and approximately 50 to 60 employees, depending whether it's weekday or weekend. The application was circulated in accordance with the provisions of the Planning Act. District staff provided comments which recommend that the application be deferred until required technical studies have been updated or prepared to address important issues such as availability of potable water, impacts on adjacent wells, mitigation measures to protect the development from emissions, including noise, dust, and vibration from the adjacent pit, site servicing, and stormwater management. Their comments were included in the report package. Also, the Town of Huntsville as Building Department and Operations Department both provided comments, which the applicant can address in future stages. Overall, comments have been provided to the applicant regarding requested updates to the technical documents provided. Some materials, as noted within the report, still require attention at this time. Once all updated reports have been received and issues raised that were in the report addressed, staff will be in a position to provide a recommendation in relation to this application. And currently, the application is solely brought forward for information only. Thank you so much for listening. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
Sarah Thatcher, 25 Brookside Crossing, Huntsville, Ontario.
David Thatcher, same address.
Good afternoon, Chair Stone, Town Councilors, Planning Department, and Town of Huntsville staff. We're grateful to be here today. For the past 8 years, David, my co-founder of the Muskoka Nordic Spa, and I have lived, worked, taught, coached, raised our 2 wonderful kids, and launched a charity to positively impact the community we call home. At the same time, as world travelers and entrepreneurs, we have continually asked ourselves the question, why is there no Nordic Spa in Muskoka? Many of you have also asked that same question. The beauty of our natural surroundings, 5 months of winter weather, plus the incredible number of tourists already visiting the region, encouraged us to research the possibility of a hydrotherapy spa in Muskoka. Having visited all 3 of the Nordic spas in Ontario, plus a few of the 51 Nordic-style spas in Quebec, motivated us to keep looking for the answer to our question. Upon meeting many stakeholders throughout the Muskoka community, we realized the biggest hurdle for a spa would be finding the right land, with close proximity to all regions of Muskoka, with direct and safe access off the highway, and with a site large enough to accommodate day visitors in all 4 seasons. When we found a piece of land for sale in Utterson that was formerly used as a pit and was already in a community and rural business employee precinct, we began to complete the many studies in order to restore the site to its highest and best use. The Muskoka Nordic Spa is envisioned as a place of deep connection, where locals and tourists can experience the hydrotherapy cycle of hot, cold, rest, repeat, offering steam rooms, saunas, hot tubs, and diverse cold experiences to reignite one's physical and emotional systems. The realities of what rural communities have faced since the end of COVID is a significant reason behind our interest in building this luxury wellness destination, where people ages 19 to 99 years of age can visit a spa to unplug from technology, experience nature in all weather, eat delicious food, all while using the centuries-old tradition of water as a healer. Muskoka has been chosen as a wellness destination since the early 1800s, when people traveled by steamship and train to experience the benefits of water for their wellness. Our goal is, once again, to create a place of deep healing for residents and tourists while infusing our economy with significant revenue. What we are proposing is a robust tourism product that will create hundreds of permanent part-time and full-time jobs for local residents at living wages, generate millions of dollars of tax revenue for Huntsville, Port Sydney, and Utterson to positively impact schools, roads, and municipal infrastructure, along with inspiring other entrepreneurs to create businesses that will support the spa. By focusing on wellness tourism, the Muskoka Nordic Spa will greatly enhance the economic stability of our region, bringing people in shoulder seasons and providing guests with something to do, even on a rainy day. Global wellness tourism is on the rise, and the Muskoka brand remains strong. As a Canadian-made wellness tourism destination, we intend on sharing the beauty of Muskoka with other Canadians and visitors from around the world. As community-minded and philanthropic individuals, this spa will benefit everyone, as David and I are committed to raising awareness and funds for local charities, sports teams, and other worthy initiatives that make Muskoka a wonderful place to live. Infusing thousands of dollars to the local community will improve our shared public spaces and create more opportunities for permanent residents to thrive.
Over the past few months, we have been compiling a world-class team of spa professionals and industry experts to ensure that the Muskoka Nordic Spa exceeds expectations for guest experience and community benefit. Brian Lay joins the team as president, bringing over a decade of experience as founder and CEO of Icon Projects Limited, where he delivered premier resort and entertainment developments in Asia. A specialist in luxury hospitality and destination projects, Brian combines deep technical expertise with a passion for wellness. He is known for his ability to manage complex developments while aligning high-end design with functional excellence. Brian's background in construction management and stakeholder relations ensures this project will be executed with precision. Our architect, Ty Farrow of Farrow Partners, is a world-renowned speaker who specializes in architecture for the promotion of health, salutogenic designs, and is creating a design that will inspire health from the moment one interacts with the space. Farrow Partners is crafting a place where architecture itself functions as a non-invasive therapeutic treatment, intentionally tuned to enhance mind health through multisensory, enriched environments, where every spatial decision is oriented toward creating a strong sense of coherence. So guests can not only recover and restore, but set the conditions in which they can flourish. Our builder, Greystone Construction, has decades of experience building major infrastructure projects across Muskoka, and we are grateful that they are also our next-door neighbors. John Morton, Chief Engineer and COO, and his team brings in-house expertise and construction experience that will ensure the highest quality of buildings. Designed and constructed for the long-term success of the Muskoka Nordic Spa and the surrounding community. Sarah and I are deeply connected in Muskoka, and our passion for this project comes from years of experiential travel, a desire for people to have opportunities to live their best lives, and to support the wider community by setting high standards for excellence, providing an experience that people want and need. The spa industry is growing globally, and we are delighted to be here today to present our vision to you so you can help us bring this project to life for the physical, emotional, mental, and economic benefit of all who call Muskoka home. John Morton will now speak to the more technical aspects of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Stone and committee members. I prepared a presentation, so I'm not sure if that's available for everybody. Okay, thank you. I'm going to skip through some of the stuff a little more quickly, and I'll spend a little more time on other items. So just hit this button. Just based on the prior presentations and the items that I feel will be most interesting to committee. So first of all, project overview. We'll talk about today. We've heard a bit about the property, a bit about the peak visitors expected. In general, we're going for a Muskoka-inspired aesthetic here. Ty Farrell being involved in the architecture and design is going to help us achieve that. I think he's a fantastic person to have on the team and is going to get us to a place that represents Muskoka really well, using sort of natural elements that are local to this area. I'm going to go over stormwater management, water supply, and sanitary servicing, which I know are big topics, as well as some of the other studies completed. So with that, we'll just move forward. I am going to skip through the architect slides because it was covered by David and Sarah. There's no point in reiterating that. There is a big theme here that we're all trying to work together on about the preservation of natural features. It's an important part of the spa operation. It's an important part of the experience, and obviously is an important part of Muskoka's identity. So that was a point I wanted to make. The approach to construction. As much as possible, we're going to try to use existing materials on site, leave them on site, move them around. Where we can leave existing trees and features alone, we are going to do that, and that's a big part of the conversation through design. And where we have to bring in materials, we're going to do everything we can to bring in local materials. So using local quarries and pits and lumber mills that we can to make sure that this is a local solution. Big picture, we're hoping to do some earthworks foundations in 2026 and then the finishing stages in 2027. Stormwater management is the next slide. So as Madeline had an overview, there was a FSR provided by Pinestone Engineering. Stormwater management on this site is a relatively easy solution to provide. There's a lot of pervious area that we're maintaining here, a lot of vegetated features. It's going to make sure that our runoff is attenuated well. We're going to use low impact development approaches, infiltration, anything that we can do to attenuate flows. Where we can, we're going to use rainwater harvesting as well on this site, and I'll talk a little bit more about that with the water servicing strategy. Generally, we're designing the site to comply with a grading that is natural, the natural topography. So we work with that, and we put our stormwater structures at the outlet of the site, which is where it naturally drains to anyway. Water supply. This is obviously an important topic, not only to committee, as we heard in the last presentation, but as well to us as being involved in the design and construction, as well as the proponent. This is going to use some water. It's a large facility. The question of whether or not there's water available is not the right question asked, though. It's how to provide the water service. We know that there's groundwater supply available. We know that there's some amount. How much of it needs to be studied in detail. The impact on adjacent wells needs to be studied in detail. We are committing to that. That's not something that's not happening. That's something that needs to happen. We've done some estimated numbers, put together some estimated numbers. On a large scale, this needs to be a multi-well system. It's a large property. It's 20 acres. If you had residential homes in here, you can imagine how many wells could theoretically be placed without a problem. They are going to need to be deeper wells. Studying the neighboring wells within 200 meters of this area, there's dug wells that are 14 meters deep or 50 feet deep. There are drilled wells that are 500 feet deep. Okay, there is, whoops, I don't know why I did that. Oh, sorry, okay. Sorry, threw me off. There are flow rates available between 3 and 10 gallons per minute. It varies. To properly study the available water and the impact on adjacent wells, we need to drill new high capacity wells and study, do pump tests on them, do recovery tests on them, study the impact to adjacent wells. That's a significant expenditure. And it is, in my view, from my perspective, unreasonable to expect it at this stage. It is very reasonable to expect it at a future stage before construction, before final approval. And I believe that the town has adequate stops in the process and thresholds that we can pass to do those studies. And that is the plan. But to be clear, that is, we're not avoiding any of those requirements. We actually really want to answer those questions. Similar to the questions that came up in the last presentation, we would answer all of those with this study. The hydrogeological investigation that was provided as an upfront study looked at shallow groundwater. And that's why you saw situations where there was no groundwater. Well, that wasn't no groundwater at 500 feet. That was no groundwater within 20 feet of the surface, which is not surprising if everybody's familiar with the soils in the area. So with preliminary numbers, we're talking about a target capacity of around 25 gallons per minute. If the capacity we find during the study is less than that, that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means it's not ideal. We need more on-site storage. So how you deal with a facility like this and peak demands that fluctuate. There's no water use at night, for example, right? There could be peak use during the day. Throughout different seasons, we have different levels of visitors. So the pressure on the water system varies. We design for that peak day, the worst day possible. And in order to deal with that day, there's underground storage that we have full of water that deals with those peak demands above what the groundwater supply can do. As a backup to that system, in 2035, if climate change continues to go the direction it does, and we have the biggest drought on record, and we're unable to keep up with demand, it's not uncommon for these spas that are on rural systems to bring in water from potable water trucks. And this system would be designed for that kind of measure if needed. So this is all being thought about. I wanted to spend some time on this because I know it's sensitive and it's not something that we're trying to avoid. We actually want to do a good job at this and study it properly and put adequate resources into it at the right time to make sure we nail it. With that being said, the total water requirement is, we haven't completely determined that exact number yet. If we are over 50,000 liters per day as a peak demand, we have to get a permit to take water, which triggers additional study and engineering to support that permit application. So you're also covered there in terms of a process that's taken care of by the ministry. We are going to look at gray water reuse for use in the building, also rainwater harvesting, which does help shave peak demand down on the potable water system on the groundwater resource. So that all of those systems will be implemented and used in the design to try to reduce demand on the aquifer. I might have already talked about this next slide. So water conservation measures, rainwater harvesting, use of non-potable water for irrigation and toilet flushing, potential gray water reuse from showers and sinks. These measures are expected to reduce potable water demand by approximately 20 to 40%. All of this needs to be confirmed with our mechanical engineer, civil engineer, even with the architect. So there's a lot of coordination here between different consultants. Again, pretty early to be doing that at this point.
Are we getting close?
Sorry, okay, I'll pick it up. Sorry, I'll pick it up. Sanitary servicing, again, this one, we are looking at advanced on-site treatment to reduce the bed size, including biofilters. So Waterloo or EcoFlow biofilter, it's the only thing that makes sense here. Very likely, we will need an ECA for this based on the flow rate. Again, there's a process to follow there that triggers certain design submissions and requirements that the ministry is a part of. So in terms of risk there, I think it's well covered off. The noise context. So we're aware of the quarry across the road. We are aware of Greer Road traffic, and we will be implementing noise mitigation strategies throughout the design. It's an active conversation. We're located within a natural bowl. That's going to help. We will have water features that provide ambient noise in the background. There's typically at a spa, I've only been to a spa once, purely for research purposes, but there's typically music playing. Light music playing in the background. These are the types of strategies we'll be implementing. One of the consultants mentioned while we were talking to the noise consultants because of this request, said it was odd to them that we were being asked for this study. Typically, as a noise receptor, we're not somebody that's asked to do a study. Typically, it's the noise generator. I'm not asking that the quarry do that. That's not what's being triggered here. But typically, the mitigation measure you would employ for the generator is something on their property, a muffler, something from the noise source. It's not something we're going to be able to implement through that study. So our proposal is that this is unnecessary and we can provide noise mitigation on our own property and be well aware of the existence of the noise being generated nearby and are making this conscious decision. I'll quickly go through the next few slides, sorry. Engineering studies. Environmental impact study by Riverstone was already mentioned earlier. Nothing of concern came up there that can't be dealt with. Traffic impact brief, no concerns there, of course. As mentioned, the FSR by Pinestone, I wanted to quickly mention that they have reviewed the updated site plan, issued a memo, and stated no concerns. That just hasn't been sent to the Town of Huntsville yet, planning department, but that does exist. And in summary, I don't need to reiterate everything I just said.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And thanks for spending so much time on the groundwater. That's the biggie for us. Oh. More?
Just a little bit more.
All right.
I'm going to be very brief.
Excellent.
Savas Fratis of Plan Muskoka, P.O. Box 5384, Huntsville, Ontario, P1H2K7. I'm really here just to talk about the next step forward here and what the applicants are requesting of council today. I know the application was brought forward for information purposes only, but they'd like to have consideration of council for the passage of the bylaw today. It's available by staff to be passed. I don't know if they prepared one ahead of time or not. The whole idea that there is, questions that staff still have on this matter, and you've heard from John about, commitment to doing the studies that are required at a later date. That later process that's still required is a CPP permitting process. The official plan and the CPP bylaw allow you to ask for any study you'd like. There's the list of about 28 or something like that in the report, in the official plan that can be requested. So there isn't a fear that it can't be done. It's a matter of timing. And that's where the applicants are hoping that council can consider that request of theirs and move this project forward here today. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. It's a public meeting, so I'm going to ask the public, any member of the public that would like to speak to this application, you can come down. Nobody's jumping up. Come on down, sir. If you could just state your name and mailing address and then begin.
Good afternoon. My name's Frank Scheich. I'm at 25 Stevenson Road 7 East. So I abut the proposal, which is very nice. We're excited to one degree. But as you see, contentious issue, water, traffic, noise. He mentioned, yes, there's a working gravel pit across the road. I assume at least 6 times a year they blast. And there's a bit of a wind that comes after that. Like an idiot, I looked at it once and I said, never again. I hid behind a phone pole, but that was stupid. But it is quite a cloud. So I hope, and I'm sure they know about that. Water, we're about 270 feet drilled well. So I listened to some of the water stuff. It's nice to know the depths. It's nice to know the water table. Aquifers and surface water, I assume they're treated different, not knowing anything about it, but they may be two different animals. I don't know. Eventually the water seeps down into the rocks and cracks and stuff. So our concern was traffic. My wife Annabelle runs a Medi Spa right on the corner. So it's pretty conducive to what's being proposed. So I'm excited about that to the degree that maybe more business for us, right? So it's self-serving. Same genre type thing, right? So we're happy with that. Traffic, I think David explained to us before the meeting that Stevenson Road 7 will not be used. It will all be off Greer Road, old Highway 11. So that's good, strong road, okay? Served any purpose for years. So that was a concern of ours because she also does tranquility stuff as well in her business and vibrations and stuff. So also I would have like, hey, noise, do they have parties? Is there music going to be played during the spa? You know, tranquil music, I assume. Yes, it's in a hole. I'm told the building will be down at the bottom. So then you say, yeah, it's like he mentioned, the sound is almost reverse, right? It's all inside there. So those are some of the concerns I have. Slowly being addressed. I know we're at preliminary stages, so all this is still going to be evolved. The water issue is always interesting because is there going to be adequate? Years ago, they wanted to put a subdivision across the road. I don't know if that tweaks anybody here. And one of the issues I heard from a Italian developer, I don't know, it's all scuttlebutt, there wasn't enough water. So I don't know what that means, right, in regards. But yes, it will affect an impact on the size as to how much water, but then he's got remediation saying, hey, we can pot it in. Mary Lake is real close. I assume a permit's required if you're going to draw water out of Mary Lake to help through the low times. So I think location-wise, it sounds like there's enough services and available, the pits there for construction. Parking will be closer to our border property, so that's nice, and then it's all further away. It was interesting to hear that there's not a septic thing, but yeah, they have portable toilets just down the road, but I don't know if they have a pond that they do the leaching in. I don't know if that's, I'll have to see my own neighborhood. I should know what's going on. Yeah, I assume construction timeline was addressed real quick. So I assume most of the infrastructure, the laying, maybe they're doing blasting. I don't know. There's a potential because it's all rocked in there. So that's something that I was saying, okay, would that affect no more than what the gravel pit used? Infrastructure, power, hydro, gas. So they're all going to be self-contained the way I hear it. They're going to have their own septic systems. They're going to have multiple wells. It was interesting, 25 wells, deep wells. I don't know what that means, how deep. And then again, will it take my 270? We've had no problem, so I'm pretty happy. Neighbor stands in the audience. He has a dug well, so he's had some things go dry too, but we'll see how that affects that well. Now we have snowmobiles going down the road, boom, boom, boom. I don't know if that'll affect the spa, but that is something new. They closed off access, so these racers, they show their $25,000 machines and they zip by the house. So if we could get a slowing speed limit or something, that's something in the future. Real quick, property is 20 acres, which is nice, so they have more than enough room for parking and expansion and all that, so I don't think that's a noise. 400 per day, that's pretty sizable, so there's going to be some heavy motion going on there. So, and again, it plays into the tranquility that it will be mood setting. You know, cars are pretty quiet today. Even electric cars, which I assume they're going to do a promotional events. I talked about, okay, they'll have their own fireworks maybe or something else. So that's in the future. The access was addressed. Blasting was addressed. Rainwater harvesting. Nice to see that again, that they have contingency plans. And that's good for the environment. Green, gray water, all that sounds very good. So far it's all looking good in that regard. So this hope it's a symbiotic relationship with the neighbors. Very smooth, 4 buildings, 4 houses on the road. That's really close, right? So let's see, it shouldn't impact from the degree that's saying, hey, you're going to be disrupted. It's not like a whole subdivision is nearby, right? So, but development, I hear council maybe is saying, hey, that whole road is gonna keep development out of Port Sydney itself because it truncated. So I use myself as I'm a Port Sydney, but Utterson address. Right on that road, they drew the line back in the day. But okay, so that's it, rambling, but I'm getting older now, so. Okay, so that's my concern, and I'm looking forward to more of the studies that are being done.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would anyone else present like to speak to this application? Come on down. Good afternoon.
No, right, that button right there. So I've been listening to all the plans that they have made for to supply themselves with water. But water is a funny thing. He's here today, gone tomorrow. So I'm just wondering what their plans are to handle the fact that maybe down the road, several months, years, maybe, neighboring wells might start to go dry. I'm just wondering how they're planning on dealing with that. And also, there's a lot of trees around the south side of Stevenson 7. And I'm just wondering how close they're going to start clearing those trees. How far from the road are they going to stop clearing those trees? Because all the trees are on the south side and there's very little on the north side. So just a couple of quick questions. I just wonder if they could clear that up for us.
I don't know if Madeline can help us with, so the trees?
Through you, Chair Stone, I'll defer to the applicant if they could better address that question.
We heard that they were going to retain as many trees as possible, but
It's kind of hard to
in
write
that
down though.
specific area, yeah.
Sorry, yeah, I will try to address that. So the visitor experience needs to be as naturalized of an environment as possible, as private as possible. Driving into this facility and parking next to houses and next to other facilities is not the experience that we're going for. We want as much vegetative buffer as possible. As this site plan continues to be refined, we want to continue to maintain a natural buffer on all sides of the property, not just to be good neighbors, but also for guest experience. I mean, you want guests coming in here and feeling like they're 100 miles away from anything else. So that's really important for the success of this business.
So you're going to, so how do you measure as many as possible? How do you measure that? 100 feet, 50 feet?
So all I can say for sure is we'll comply with whatever the setbacks are that are required, the vegetative buffers that are required.
And
Are there limits?
there will be site management for tree retention. So that'll be done through staff and at their approval.
Okay.
Okay.
As far as my first question goes, what plans do you have down the road if people's wells around your project start going dry? Do you have any plans to solve that problem?
Well, again, if there's future issues, I mean, I'll give you an example. For a permit to take water with the ministry, that will have to be reported on annually. And so if changes to water supply or anything like that happens in the long run, then there'll have to be more studies done and a new solution implemented somehow with this facility. The beauty of the way that we're planning to design it is water can be imported, put in the storage tanks, topped up.
That solves your problem for water. But are you prepared to help the neighbors if their wells go dry?
So that solution that I'm talking about, let's, again, as a for example, say there's water supply issues around the area that are somehow linked directly and proven to be from the facility.
Okay.
If we bring in more water, that reduces demand on the aquifer and theoretically could solve that issue, right? So that's how that importation of water could.
Okay, what about?
So hang on a sec. So you can't keep doing that. Everything goes through me, all questions.
Okay, sorry.
And so, just like the previous applications, we're going to use professionals and hydrogeological studies to try and protect everyone's interest for sure.
So in other words, nothing is written in stone yet, as far as building this place goes?
What was your question?
Nothing is written in, like this is not a definite project yet.
No. So
Okay.
if council today decides to move this forward,
Yes.
all the professional studies still have to be done. All the research, the hydrogeological is the big question for them and for us to protect the groundwater and make sure your well doesn't go dry. So that still has to be done.
And the neighbors will still have input on it down the road.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
This is for information only today. Correct. Sir, can you put your name and address? You got it? We got it. All right. Is there anyone else present that would like to speak to this? Is there anyone online that would like to speak to it? You'd need to raise your electronic hand. Did you want to speak? Come on down. Hi. Can you put the microphone on? Your name and address, and then go ahead.
My husband was speaking before, so I will try to make it a little bit shorter. One of the concerns that I have as a spa owner, because the building, the big structure is going to be on my corner where my spa is and our house is again addressing to make sure that we study about the water, the sound, which is very important because when you're building something, and I do have clients already, we want to make sure that that is protected. I have, my business is for also servicing clients that they are going through chemo treatments, do facial treatments, anything about relaxation. So that's my little concern that I have to make sure that it's studied properly. I'm not against it, but I want to make sure that we don't run out of water when we need to. The traffic, where the parking is going to be, if they're talking 400 people coming, in the area that I am is residential. I'm the only little spa, mini spa into that area. So it's just considering all of that, just to make sure that, we want to grow. That is the idea. But we want to make sure it's done properly for the benefit of both parties. That's all what I wanted to say.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online that would like to speak?
Chair Stone, I see no hands raised.
All right. So at this time, I'll go to council. Councilor Fitzgerald. That's who you are.
Thank you, Chair Stone. Through you, I guess this question is for Frank. Frank, how much do you hear the quarry during the day? Like, what's the impact? Can you come down?
Didn't we talk about this earlier?
I said through you.
You can't just say that.
Yeah. So, Corey across the road, a little bit up. They have good berms all along Stevenson or Greer Road. So and again, it's a depression. It's just the blasting that makes us know there's a pit there. So from that point of view, I have no neighborly, ban the quit, so that was it.
Yeah. So follow up, Chair Stone. So really, they notify you when they're blasting?
True.
How far in advance do they notify you?
They'll do like, hey, next week, Wednesday. Sometimes it's postponed. Sometimes they say, hey, we're going to do it on Thursday. Depends on the blast people. Right?
So you get about a week's notice?
We do get.
And currently it's 5 or 6 times a year?
Yeah, I keep the little slips every time they give me a slip, just so I see how many times.
Okay.
I guess they're pushing back a rock face.
Yeah.
And eventually they'll run out, I assume. Thank you.
Thanks for that.
Before I go to any other questions with council, apparently there is someone online that wants to speak. I'm going to let them come in. Oh, hello there. I can see you.
Hi.
Yes,
Sorry
you
about
can
that.
state your name and address and go ahead.
My name's Elaine Greenfield.
My address is 64 Stevenson 7 East, and I'm right across the road from this proposed spa. And I really just wanted to speak in positive favor of having this. I honestly don't believe that it's going to hurt anybody in our surrounding areas. I know the people that are running it, and I trust their integrity. I know that their plan is that it's going to be a really positive thing for our community. So I really just wanted to say I'm in favor of it. I don't have concerns, and I know that the concerns that I have had have already been addressed by them personally when I've talked with them. So the water issue, I know if it does become a concern, I know that I can trust them to be able to move ahead in the proper way to make sure that the water's cared for. So I just wanted to say I am totally in favor of this.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. All right, I'm going to go back to Councillor Morrison.
Thank you, Chair Stone, and through you. I'm very encouraged to see the people involved and that Greystone is involved. It gives me a lot of confidence that things will be done the right way and that care for neighbors will be paramount. Obviously, based on our first discussion today and then this coming up, I wouldn't be in favor of this going through the CPP process unless that was all addressed. So I call them lion stand, but to Stan, I can assure you that that's something that we have checks and balances in place to make sure that you're protected. And it is important to all of us as well as the people building. I guess my question is to the point of the studies and whatnot that could be needed now before we get to the zoning done and move forward. It could take a long time. And I want to be careful not to risk losing something like this coming to our community. I wonder if we could proceed with zoning, if Director Maxwell and the planning team are okay with it, proceed with zoning being approved, not saying that the development will ever be approved, just that the zoning would allow it. And then they can start the process of next steps. Because if you did all that work, spent all that money, and then found out we don't approve the zoning, then it's money gone for nothing and a lot of time spent. So in my mind, the logical next step would be to get the zoning done. Then they have a lot of work to do. Staff has a lot of work to do, and then we can work together on the process. That's just my thought.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Chair Stone. I would support Councillor Morrison's direction there.
I'm going to go to Councillor Schumacher first.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I'm totally in support of this. Having just gone to Millcroft Spa this past weekend, I am a spa user, so I do see the benefits for sure of this. The one thing, and I know I've talked to Dave and Sarah about this, we, with the traffic, I know we can't change Google Maps, and I know we've talked about trying to reroute the traffic so that they do come in on 141. And I would hope we do it both north and south, because my concern is coming up Greer Road past the school, people don't tend to go the lower kilometer speed past the school to get to Greer Road. And I believe Sarah and Dave are looking at on their website, and they can maybe speak to it, but trying to make sure traffic doesn't cross at Stevenson 8, where it's a bit dicier to cross the highway coming north, and trying to make sure that, as much as they can, rerouting traffic completely through the 141 corridor to Greer Road. Am I correct in that, Sarah and Dave?
Thank you. No, thanks. Anything? Any other questions or comments from council?
So there is no motion, so somebody has to.
Madeline, hi.
Hello. Sorry, I just wanted to quickly give a couple pointers just based on some of the public consultation that we heard today. I know there was a question of vegetated buffers in proximity to the residential properties towards the north end of the property. Right now, there's no, other than what's in the bylaw, there's no increased requirement for a vegetated buffer along that north property line. So if council was interested, you could include that in a proposed amendment, that maybe a 10-meter buffer, vegetated buffer, be retained along that north interior property line. Just food for thought. The other thing that I also wanted to note was, because it's being brought today as information only, when it does get brought back, it doesn't get brought back within the public portion of the planning council meeting. It would just be under report from municipal officers. So the public could provide comment again, but it wouldn't be the same forum. So I just wanted to make that super clear.
Thank you for that. All right, well, we do have a potential motion. I'll need a mover and seconder to get it on the floor. All right. Dion, did you have a question? Sorry, Councillor Schumacher. No? Okay. All right. If you can put the motion on the screen, I'm going to read the whole thing because it was not in the package. So, moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that Planning Council approve Community Planning Permit Bylaw Amendment Application, CPPA 38-2025 HTE. The purpose and effect of which is to change the precinct on the lot from a community rural and business employment precinct to a community rural business employment with exception precinct 2. Permit a Nordic spa as the only permitted principal use. Include a site-specific definition for Nordic spa as meaning an open space recreational area, building or buildings which are operated on a commercial basis and devoted to the thermotherapy with the use of saunas, steam rooms, hot and cold pools, and massage. And permit the following uses as permitted accessory uses: a dwelling for the owner or operator, staff quarters, place of assembly, restaurant, yoga and relaxation facilities, open space, trails, forest, and bathing, indoor storage building, administrative facilities, and other accessory uses, services, equipment for facilities normally incidental to the principal use. To restrict development on the property until authorized through a community planning permit. Require that the following materials be prepared in accordance with applicable legislation policies, standards, and guidelines and submitted to the satisfaction of the Director of Development Services or the designate prior to the issuance of a community planning permit. A hydrogeological assessment, detailed servicing and stormwater management report and plans, detailed construction mitigation plan, landscape and renaturalization plan, wildland fire hazard management plan, photometric plan, and noise and vibration study and compatibility study. Are there comments or questions about this motion? Then I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried all round. What's that?
Dion's vote wasn't recorded.
Oh. Oh, okay. Were you in favor or opposed? Councillor Schumacher, are you there? Are you in
Yes,
favor
I
or
was-
opposed?
Yes. Oh, I
favor.
didn't know you were asking me. I put my hand up when you called, but I don't think you saw
We
it.
didn't have you on the screen at the time.
Yeah. Oh,
Thank
okay.
you very much. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to take a 5-minute break. All right, welcome back, everyone. I have to read this. Now that all comments have been received, I declare these public meetings to be concluded. We will now move to the non-public portion of the meeting. And Madeline, you're going to speak to the Riverlea Road application.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, the subject property is located at 738 Riverlea Road. The lot's designated waterfront in the official plan and is under the waterfront residential 60 meter with a flood zone, a 60 meter precinct with a flood zone overlay in the community planning permit bylaw. So I'll just jump ahead to keep things more brief, but essentially these are just some site photos. I'll go back here to see the site plan and just kind of which highlights the relief being requested and the areas specifically on the property that are requesting some additional development. But essentially in July 2025, community planning permit application CPP 62/2025 was provisionally approved by Planning Council. And that was for the construction of a 61 square meter detached one-story garage, 31 square meter dock addition, and two 13.5 square meter enclosed porch additions to the existing 158 square meter single detached dwelling. So after approval was granted and a permit was issued, the applicants did some more detailed site review, and they determined that the driveway was incorrectly shown on the previous site plan. And after showing the driveway in the appropriate location and plotting the garage, they realized that the relief that was previously requested wasn't going to work with the garage location. And because of the variation requested to now reduce that interior side yard setback to 1.5 meters, it had to come back to Planning Council just because of the threshold of the relief required. So now the proposal has only slightly changed. So the garage has maintained the same size, but the enclosed porch additions have gotten slightly larger. They're now being proposed at 14.5 square meters, and also two deck additions beside those enclosed porch additions are being added to the proposal just to increase the overall functionality of the design. The other thing that has also changed with this application, the floodplain limit of the Muskoka River is actually quite close to the existing dwelling. Prior, the enclosed porch addition, sunroom additions weren't crossing over into the flood fringe area, but now with the marginal increase, they are slightly within that area. They will be built above the minimum building elevation and elevated on piers, so any openings, windows, and doors will be all above that elevation mark. And yeah, I won't go on further, but essentially the application was circulated in accordance with the community planning permit bylaw. One letter of support was received from a neighboring property owner and included in the report package. And through staff's review and analysis, the application would appear to meet the intent of applicable criteria under this community planning permit bylaw and would be consistent with the provincial planning statement. And therefore, staff are recommending approval subject to the conditions of provisional approval and final approval listed in the report package. And I'm happy to answer any questions if needed.
Excellent, thank you. I'll call on the applicant or the representative to make any comments if they wish. And I'm wondering if they're online. If they are, you can bring them in. Hello there, I can see you.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. Okay, one sec here. Hi, everyone. My name is Danielle Bilodeau from Justin Sherry Design Studio, here on behalf of the owners, Kevin and Tracy White. Address is 17 Point Street in Barrie, Ontario, L4M3N6. As Madeline explained, I'm just going to quickly give a bit more of a background of why we've had to come back here, because Madeline touched on the main parts. I just wanted to mention that after receiving the building permit for the detached garage, like Madeline mentioned, getting ready to start construction, it was made clear that there were discrepancies between the information that was provided to us and the actual site conditions. So the location of the driveway, like Madeline had mentioned, and the existing septic bed as well. The owners were concerned that it would be too close. So it was just a bit difficult for the construction to be in that position and kind of unjustifiable at that point. So we revisited the location and now placed it closer to the property line. It is set closer to the north side property line, but we do have a letter of support from that neighbor and they don't have a problem with that setback. So that's great. Since we had to revisit this, the owners also requested to revisit the sunroom designs, revising the design slightly to making it just a bit more cohesive and just kind of improve the flow a little bit. Regarding the septic, we're also proposing a new septic bed installed much closer to the dwelling and further away from the garage so that we know for sure there's a good amount of distance. Thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any comments or questions.
Excellent. Thanks very much. I'm going to go to council. Any comments or questions about this? Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Stone. Just a quick question about the difference between the flood line and the floodway. Like just barely on the top of this diagram, Madeline, it does say flood line and floodway. So the house is within the flood line, correct? As well as the floodway.
Madeline?
Thank you for the question through you, Chair Stone. So the existing dwelling isn't within the floodplain at all. The flood fringe area just slightly now goes within the enclosed porch addition. It might be a little bit difficult to see when I converted the PDF to an image for the sketch.
Thank you. And if I may, Chair Stone, that was my concern. That it looks as if it's butting out a little bit into the floodway, but it's called a floodway, not a flood zone, correct?
So through you, Chair Stone, the whole thing is the floodplain, but there's floodway and there's flood fringe. So the flood fringe is the portion that the enclosed porch addition is within.
Thank you. We learn something new every day.
Councillor Cloutier.
Through you, Chair. Best thing about this that's come up, the neighbors are supporting it, and also they recognized the need for a better septic system. So I mean, kudos to the property owner for that.
Excellent. I see no more hands. It's a very lengthy motion, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's exactly as it's shown in your package. So all in favor? And that carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right. Kelsey's here to talk about the mallet application. You can go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 4074 Ravenscliff Road, as you can see in front of you. The property is within the waterfront designation of the official plan, is within the waterfront residential precinct 2, which is 120 meter frontage usually, and it's also within the flood zone overlay. The applicant is proposing to construct a 39 square meter addition to a single detached dwelling and a 37.5 square meter dock along the shoreline. Class 3 community planning permit is required to permit this development and provide relief from the following variations, which includes development within the flood overlay, permit development within 30 meters of a natural heritage area or feature, which is type 2 fish habitat, and then permit redevelopment of a non-complying building that does not match the original size, location, and height, to reduce the cold water lake setback to 15 meters, and to reduce the front yard setback to 15 meters from 20, and to increase the primary lot coverage from 10% to 13.5%. So you can see all these reliefs listed here, and I just illustrated the setback, so it is in line with the existing dwelling. Please note that the wrong sketch was included in the agenda package. The correct sketch, which is in front of you, was also circulated yesterday to council. So the existing dwelling is legal non-complying, as mentioned. and was constructed prior to the standards of today. So the existing dwelling is already within the front yard setback and the sidewalk to a cold water lake. The proposed addition is not closer to the water than the existing dwelling, and is in a cleared area, as you could kind of see illustrated here. The existing 15-meter buffer is to be maintained. There are parts where there's more grass and disturbance, so there is a recommended condition that revegetation be done to achieve a net benefit, should the council view this application favorably. The addition, as mentioned, maintains the same existing building line and height, and remains compatible with the surrounding low-density shoreline residential area. Even with the addition, the overall lot coverage will remain at a modest percentage for a waterfront lot. Regarding the flood hazard, the CPP bylaw generally limits additions to 10% of the existing footprint to minimize potential adverse effects, risk to life and property from associated flood hazards. Although the proposal increases more than 10% of this threshold, the flood hazard engineering report and addendum confirmed that the addition will be appropriately flood-proofed in accordance with the applicable flood-proofing and protection works standards. The District of Muskoka's Hatch engineering floodplain mapping was considered in the report, and the building addition was designed such that the underside of the floor structure would be at a geodetic elevation of 303.65, which is approximately 0.15 meters above the regulatory flood elevation for Buck Lake. The property also benefits from existing safe access outside the flood zone overlay, ensuring that vehicles and people will be able to safely enter and exit the area during flood events. Further, as a portion of the current dwelling already contains habitable space within the floodplain, and the addition will be constructed on piers to provide floodwater to flow freely underneath. The proposal does not introduce a new hazard or aggravate existing ones. The existing septic system, which is also located outside of the flood zone overlay. So the application was circulated in accordance with the Community Planning Permit Bylaw and the Planning Act. No comments were received. The district did provide comments, which were included in attachment 4. District staff recommended that the application be denied. Their comments outlined that the Muskoka Official Plan and PPS include policies that do not permit development and site alteration within the floodway except for minor additions. The comments note the intent for these policies to minimize further risk to human health and infrastructure associated with flood hazards. District staff consider this application exceeds this threshold. Overall, staff concluded with the conditions that are currently listed in the report and in consideration of the OP that it could be considered minor, and that the proposal meets the Community Planning Permit Bylaw and is consistent with the provincial planning statement and are recommending provisional approval. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. The applicant's representative is on his way. Good afternoon, John.
Good afternoon, Chairman Stone, members of the Planning Committee. John P. Gallagher, and with me today is Jason and Don, the owners of the subject lands. I think Kelsey's report was quite thorough and identifies a number of items that we had to do to get this 420 square foot addition. The first item that we did was retain a surveyor. When we went out there, we found that it was about 10 inches lower than the flood elevation. And so when you look at the existing cottage, it's elevated off the ground, and the intent was always to keep the floor levels the same across that. With the application in the provincial planning statement, they do talk about flood areas, et cetera. And one of the items that I guess I understand this is going back to the district, and there were some discussions about the Hatch report. What I would say is that again, any of the district counselors that want to talk to me about that Hatch report before you go back to the district, I'd be glad to. One of the items that we found in our review with the engineer was that Buck Lake actually has two flood elevations. There's one on the Huntsville side and there's one on the McMurrick side. And there's about a 0.9 meter difference in flood elevation between the two. Prior to the 1924, the Hatch report, the applicants, notwithstanding the exceptions that were needed specifically with the flood, they would have just had to build at the flood elevation that was established, which would have actually been on the ground level. And that being said, I understand, staff's concern wanting to get that correct. However, the district has not included the Hatch maps as part of the official plan yet. I took a review of that. I talked to the district about it. It's my understanding they're trying to pass the bylaw to include it, and that got pulled off the agenda at one of the most recent meetings. And so what I would say with regards to that is please have careful consideration for that. My clients have had to endure a lot of study to basically obtain for a 400 square foot addition to their house. And in my opinion, sometimes when policies are put so restrictive, it almost amounts to expropriation without compensation because you're not affording people the right to develop their lands in an appropriate manner. That being said, we have used the Hatch report and done the study through Dan Duke Engineering. And again, we're using helical piles on the additions. The bottom of the floor joists will be above the flood elevation. The egress is from the other side of the building, which is above the flood elevation, and access out to the Ravenscliff Road is also above that. We do appreciate staff's effort. I know there was a lot of back and forth on this application, but we do appreciate staff a review of this in a reasonable manner. And I'd be glad to answer any questions should you have any. We just ask that you go with Kelsey's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, comments or questions? All right, council members, comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Thanks, Chair Stone. The picture, was that a painting of the?
It was a beautiful, beautiful picture.
What if it's not?
No, it's just the fall there, and we tried to get as much of the cottage in there. It's a low profile. The addition's same roof line, 16 feet wider.
It was nice. Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair. Happy to support this application. I just have a question. I'm not sure who would be able to answer, but our planning department has suggested approval. District says no. So what happens? Will they try to dispute our decision? I guess is the question.
Director Maxwell, is the district going to fight us on this?
I don't believe there's been any discussions along those lines that I'm aware of.
Kelsey?
We had a similar one, and there was no dispute. But yeah, it's always that discussing minor additions, and we always have to just make sure it meets our policies and conforms to the PPS. But
Good question, though. So I see no other questions from council. It's a very lengthy motion. Is Councillor Schumacher there? I'm going to need a seconder. Okay, Councillor Cloutier. So moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Cloutier, as to provisionally approve this. The motion is quite lengthy, so I won't read it. It's exactly as it's shown in your agenda package. All in favor? And that carries. All right, one left. All right, 5 Haynes Road.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. Through you, the subject property is located at 5 Haynes Road. The property is within the urban residential designation of the official plan. The property is within the urban residential low precinct and urban residential medium precinct. In my last presentation in February, I mentioned that these are divided just based on the previous road being there, the precincts. The application proposes a 5-story mixed-use building with ground floor commercial and 100 units above, including 16 designated affordable units. To allow this development, a community planning permit amendment is required because of the existing zoning being low density on a portion and medium density on the other. So there's a number of reliefs needed, but I'll just kind of summarize them, but they're on screen. And they're all pretty much the same as what was last presented. So additional uses on the ground floor, including retail, food store, restaurant, personal service use, office, day nursery, health services, commercial recreation, and similar community serving uses. Increasing the height to 18.5 meters, increasing the density to 83 units per gross hectare, a reduction in the aisle width, and a reduction of the parking requirement for the affordable units for a 7-year period, a reduction in the commercial parking standard from 25 square meters per space to 30. And then permission to locate the building, one of the loading spaces within the building, and the removal of the requirement for wider spaces that are 3 meters in width. And this is just a rendering of, one of the renderings of the proposed building. So a public meeting for this application was held in February on the 11th, and a number of issues were raised through the internal comments as well as in the previous staff report. The key items we focused on were tree retention and buffering, visual impacts, traffic and pedestrian movement, parking, and comments from the Ministry of Transportation. Looking at tree retention, staff have asked for more protection of mature vegetation to help maintain the natural character of the site. The applicant has confirmed a revised tree protection plan will be provided for the community planning permit stage once the detailed grading plan is finalized. This will look at a phased tree removal plan, additional plantings, and opportunities for extra retention, especially on this east side here and along the road, Haynes. The staff are recommending this be included in the site-specific exception to secure this through development agreement and prior to issuance of a CPP. With respect to visual impacts, the landscape and visual impact study found that the overall impact is minor, given the building's location on the lower part of the slope and the existing forest cover from the property to the south. Council asked for more attention to views along Highway 60, and the applicant provided a better rendering just to see what that view would look like. But a condition has also been added to require an active end wall, and what I mean is you could see in the rendering, which this will be detailed in the community planning permit stage, windows, but this could be something like public art, additional articulation of the building, or windows to reduce visibility from the highway or to make that more of a visually interest instead of a blank wall. An updated landscape and visual impact study is recommended through the site-specific exception proposed to address this matter. On traffic and pedestrian movement, the traffic impact study has been updated to address some of operations comments. A full movement access on Haynes Road is expected to be functional and function acceptably, and a right-in, right-out restriction is not recommended, as our operations department recommended they look at that. Internally, the pedestrian network has been provided. with potential future connections to Shea Road. So I'll just go back. So you can see here, there's opportunity to connect to the road here and here. Staff also worked with the applicant to secure a sidewalk along Shea Road, so that's just south of here, to Ott Drive, which is where the new Toyota is, either through a cash in lieu or off-site works, to ensure safe pedestrian access to nearby uses, including Fairburn and that commercial hub. A memorandum of understanding has also been proposed by the applicant with Fairburn, so that staff in that facility can utilize this residential development. This contribution would address outstanding concerns about external pedestrian connectivity. On parking, the reduced parking rates rely on securing rental and affordable rental units for 25 years. The applicant is proposing 16 affordable units, but only a 7-year term of affordability is committed at this time. After that, development may fall below the parking requirement. However, in the site-specific exception, we mentioned that the cash in lieu or a variation would be needed if that's no longer provided. There's also, sorry to go back and forth, but there's also these 9 spaces here. These aren't considered in the parking requirement because they're in the MTO setback, and MTO doesn't like anything that's required to be in their setback, but those will be there. That will help with that parking allocation. Regarding MTO comments, the ministry has requested technical revisions to the traffic impact study, mainly related to modeling and intersection analysis. The applicant's engineer has committed to making these updates, and our operations team also reviewed them and believe they're more technical in nature, but there is a recommended site-specific exception to ensure that the traffic impact study is updated to the satisfaction of the MTO. A letter of objection was also received, which was attachment 6 in your package, and details concerns about parking impacts on the abutting lots due to reduced number of spaces. Parking supply was assessed using case studies from Barrie, Midland, and Bracebridge in the traffic study provided by JD Engineering, and they anticipate that the spaces are adequate based on these case studies. And then, as mentioned, those 9 additional spaces are there as well. In conclusion, with these matters addressed, we are, through this recommended site-specific exceptions, staff are recommending that the proposal meets the intent of the official plan and is consistent with the provincial planning statement, and are therefore recommending approval. Thank you, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks very much. I'll call on the applicant or representative, probably online, to be brought in.
Good afternoon. Can you hear me and see me okay?
Yes, I can. You can go ahead.
Great. Yeah, good afternoon, Chair Stone and members of Planning Council. I apologize that I cannot be there in person today, but I'm nonetheless excited to report back on this very important project. I do have a brief presentation, if it could perhaps be brought up on screen. Perfect. Next slide, please. I'll just kind of quickly recap a little bit about the site and then talk about some of the work we've been doing with town staff since the public meeting in February to bring this forward for your consideration. But just as a quick recap, we believe this is an excellent site for the proposed rental housing mixed use project with some affordable housing, considering it's more than 500 meters from the nearest low density neighborhood. It's got convenient access to commercial uses. It's got topography that allows the building to be elevated well below Highway 60 and Haynes Road to reduce its perceived height. There's also a large woodlot to the south that will be maintained in situ and provide significant screening from the south. And the town staff's own analysis of potential sites that could support building heights up to 5 stories identified this as an area with high suitability for that height of building. Next slide, please. In terms of what's being provided here in terms of the important housing benefits, I committed at the public meeting to reporting back with some additional information on unit sizes for council's consideration. And so in terms of what's being provided here is a very good mix of studio, one bedroom plus den, and 2-bedroom units. And what I'd like to highlight are the size of the units, which I think are all very large when considering what a lot of contemporary apartment buildings are doing. The studio units at 418 square feet are as big as some 1-bedroom units that you'll find in some areas these days. The 1-bedroom units, and especially the 1-bedroom plus dens, are much larger than what you typically find. The 1-bedroom plus den are very comparable to what a 2-bedroom unit would be in many other areas. And then the 2-bedroom unit's very comparable to what a 3-bedroom would be at 892 square feet. So all of these have been designed as very large, user-friendly rental units that offer a lot of flexibility to accommodate a range of different household compositions and demands, and so provides the applicant with incredible flexibility to adapt to changing market demands moving forward. There's also obviously the 16 affordable rental units, which are going to be provided as affordable for a minimum 7-year period, although the applicant's also seeking additional financial support from the district to extend that period. And based on current rent levels, the rents for those affordable units would be between $891 and $1,391 per month. So these are, very good, affordable units that will help to solve the urgent need for more affordable unit types in the town. And then lastly, also a very significant commercial component as well that could include a range of uses such as a daycare, gym, retail, etc. So mixed use, which will promote a more livable condition for residents in this building who can walk downstairs to a range of different commercial uses. Next slide, please. In terms of the collaboration we've been undertaking with town staff, we've worked to address technical comments with additional details to be provided as part of the future CPP application, as Kelsey noted. The applicant, Norterra, is also exploring opportunities to enhance the design of the East Building Wall, and I'll actually show you some preliminary idea in terms of design moving forward, but we've also worked with staff to include a requirement to further detail that as part of the future application. And then as part of that CPP application, Norterra is committed to a number of additional technical requirements, including a VIA addendum for those Highway 60 views I was talking about, and then other matters, as Kelsey mentioned, such as an updated tree preservation plan and landscape plan. Next slide, please. And then in terms of some of the kind of outside of the box thinking, I guess you could say, Kelsey mentioned that Norterra has been in contact with the Fairhaven Long-Term Care Home about, or rather is working on drafting an MOU that could provide additional kind of direct opportunities for staff in Fairhaven to have lodging in the proposed development. And I'll show you just in a slide or two why that is such a convenient location for staff at Fairhaven. Norterra is also preparing an application under the district's 2026 affordable housing program to seek additional capital funding to extend the affordability period. And Norterra has also agreed to provide funding and or to build themselves a walkway along the south side of Shea Road, and that'll provide direct access to a convenient trail that lead directly to the Fairhaven Long-Term Care Home as well. Next slide, please. In terms of what we've been looking at for the east wall of the building, so this was the image that we shared at the public meeting last month. And if you go to the next slide, please, this is just a representation of what can be done simply by extending the pattern of windows and balconies to that eastern wall. This is a very early kind of design consideration that we did very quickly for this meeting, but as noted previously, there will be a requirement for a VIA addendum to study this in more detail to staff satisfaction. And we take very seriously the obligation to preserve as many trees as possible and plant as many new trees as possible to really preserve a good natural setting when driving along Highway 60. Next slide, please. And then in terms of the transportation connectivity, especially for pedestrians, this slide illustrates how how a new walkway, as illustrated in orange, can provide direct connection along the south side of Shea Road to the trail that was implemented through the Paisley Center wooded area. And that was done in order to bring hydro services to the Fairhaven Long-Term Care Home. I believe that happened last spring or summer. And so that's in place now. And so we're looking at a distance of only about 500 meters or so, probably about a 5 to 10 minute walk. Obviously, that's contingent on weather conditions. Probably not a great walk today, as an example, but nonetheless shows how this has been designed to really promote pedestrian connectivity and to support Fairview Long-Term Care Home, which is going to have significant need for new and more affordable housing opportunities nearby. Next slide, please. In terms of next steps, Norterra is eager to finalize that MOU with the Fairview Long-Term Care Home and advance that District of Muskoka affordable housing application. They will also be providing the funding or building the walkway along the south side of Shea Road as a condition of this application, and have agreed to the future CPP application. They are tentatively looking to begin construction of this building next spring. So it's obviously very important that we move forward with these applications as quickly as possible so that they can move on to the future CPP application and the detailed plans and studies that are required in support of that. And with that, I'll just close by saying that it's been great working with town staff to address the outstanding technical comments and concerns that were flagged previously. We agree with the analysis in Kelsey's report and the recommendation thereof, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the proposal.
Thank you very much. Before I go to council, I have a few comments. So I appreciate the visual potential changes to the building and the landscaping around that, because it looked like a big Kleenex box. And so I hope we can do much better than that. And I appreciate your working on that. I worry there's not enough parking, but I yield to staff on that and the studies they've done. I think the affordable units should definitely be longer than 7 years, but I know that you're working with the district. The final comment is snow storage. You got two little parcels at the end of a whole lot of parking that's there, and I don't know that you could put all the snow there.
Yeah, no, fair comment, Chair Stone. What I will say is that that's one of the other aspects that town staff will be looking at as we move on to the CPP application, and we'll be looking at opportunities to incorporate additional snow storage. Part of kind of the next step will be really kind of taking a closer look at the concept plan, making sure that we're optimizing the parking layout and the landscaping, and then looking at the opportunities to incorporate additional snow storage. So I know that staff have a mandate to ensure that appropriate snow storage is provided in the final CPP application plans that are advanced. And so that's definitely something that we will be incorporating in the future application.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Council, comments or questions? Councillor Morrison first.
Thanks so much. I do have a question for the applicant and a couple of quick comments. I see this as a massive win for our town. I know the height is a contentious issue, but if this height was ever going to go anywhere, this lot is kind of tailor-made for exactly this. Want to talk about the Fairview thing. It's bigger than people think it is. We're lucky enough, 4 of us, to be down at the district. From the very beginning of this term, especially Chair Stone being on the health committee, it's been an issue for Fairview staffing and just long-term care staffing at the Pines. And it got to the point where we were bringing in temporary workers at an extremely high cost to the taxpayer. It was, I don't know, Bob, you remember the number, but it was a big portion of our PSWs. And the cost of bringing them up, put them up in hotels, had to pay them a premium rate was significant. We finally fixed that. We're finally out of that woods. Without housing, it's great to build this beautiful new building for Fairview. Without for them to be able to find housing for the PSWs, we're right back at that. So the location, to me, that is one of the biggest reasons I'm in favor of it, because we need to make sure Fairview is staffed properly. So thank you for you guys already engaging the district on that. The daycare thing, one of the biggest needs we have in this town, massive. The cost, the $891 to $1391, I want you to picture for a second how much of an impact that will have on the people, especially if we get the MAHIP funding for them. I hear from people almost every single day about the affordability. That is massive. It's huge. And it's going to help out a lot of people. I love that you guys are addressing the visual impact. I love that the sidewalks are addressed. All the concerns that we had are being addressed, maybe except the fact that some people might not like the height. not going to tell you guys what to do with your building, but the one thing I would hope is that when looking at I think the meters, I put it to square feet, it's over 15,000 square feet of commercial space. I hope that the owners or the developers will look at complementary and new uses. I know that the public doesn't want to see more fast food places out there. Not my business to tell you what to do, but I just want to make sure you guys know what the public is saying, and that would be something that would matter to them. And lastly, the letter from Festing Toyota, I think would be worth taking a look at. That company's spent a significant amount of money on building a beautiful new building right there, investing in the town as well. And I'm hoping that we can make sure that people aren't parking in their parking lot. And I don't know through staff or through the developer what can be done to make sure that that is addressed. But for me, for all those reasons I've stated, I think this is an unbelievable potential development, especially if you guys get the MAHIP funding. So thank you.
Excellent. Comments or questions? Deputy Mayor Armour.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Stone. Just a very quick one. So the affordable units, are they going to be a mixture of 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms, or just strictly studios and 1 bedrooms?
Through Chair Stone, a mix of all the different unit types, kind of at the same proportion as what's being provided across the entire project. I thank you for reminding me. I meant to mention that earlier, but yes, it'll be a mix of studio, 1 bedroom plus 10 and 2 bedroom units.
Councillor Clark.
Thanks, Chair Stone. I'll keep my comments brief. As my concerns around the height and density haven't really changed at all from the last time this proposal was here, so I won't be supporting the application.
Councillor Cloutier.
Through your Chair Stone. One good thing about this project, it's not in somebody's backyard. I mean, we had to deal with that earlier this year, and this project isn't. It's in a great location to service the employers up in that corner. Not just Fairburn, but there is other employers up there that their employees need housing, and it's not very far from the hospital either. So when the hospital expands, it's a catch-22 situation. I'm fully for this.
And about the hospital, hopefully we'll get a trail right across Highway 60 and get a trail down to the hospital. Excellent. Councillor Renwick.
Thank you, Chair Stone. And through you, I certainly appreciate the work that the applicant has done to answer all the questions that we had. And it's the way you laid it out and the way you sort of reiterated what we said and then answer those questions. And further to what Councillor Morrison said, you've addressed a lot of the concerns that we've had. And the one question that I have, and this may not be directly to the applicant, but it may be to staff, what is going on with the MTO with Shea Road? Do we own it? Do they own it? Who's looking after that? Is it still a work
We're going to go to
to
Director Maxwell. This has been ongoing. Yes.
All right.
Thank you. It is still in progress, and our operations and our legislative coordinators are looking after it.
Thank you. So it's not going to affect, obviously, this, no. Okay. Thank you. That's all I need to know.
All right. I see no other hands. This again is a very lengthy motion. Moved by Councillor Morrison, seconded by Councillor Renwick. The Planning Council approve this application. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. It's exactly as it was in your package. So all in favor? All opposed? And that carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Almost done. Moved by Councillor Renwick, seconded by Deputy Mayor Armour. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2026-23 be received and passed this 11th day of March 2026. All in favor? And that carries. Moved by Councillor Clark, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that we do now hereby adjourn at 3:53 p.m. All in favor? And that carries. Thank you, everyone. It was a good day.